Hello everybody, this is Dr. Novak again. I'll give a little update on the goldfish aquarium. Everything's doing great. The canister filter, it has not been cleaned since the tank's been started. And the F-zone filtration I'm using, the canister filter is called an F-zone. Been running great. There's zero problems. The pump itself is extremely quiet, and it puts out a good amount of water for circulation. I really like it. Would I buy another one? Absolutely, in a heartbeat. To me, for the price, it's not even worth going to plastic canister filters anymore for the price this was. And I have a whole video on it and everything. For the little bit I did to it, no, it's just the ADA. No, it's too expensive. Where you can buy this, and with the pump, it's just absolutely wonderful. Okay, zero problems. I use the F-zone 800 pump on the 20-gallon tank, which was in my last video, and I use it on this 40-gallon, and zero problems, zero noise, zero problems, very little heat, no more than any other canister filter out there. So I did want to tell you that, an update on that. But why I'm doing this filter is the Hornworth that's in here, I've already had it clean, or not clean it, but cut it back 3 times already in the amount of time this has been set up. And the goldfish are eating it, but it's growing faster than they can eat it. And as you see, all the algae that started in the aquarium, the beard algae and everything, it's gone. Everything's gone. So as you can see, it's not, and even though the lights are on 15 hours a day, algae is not the problem of the aquarium. So my idea of letting this grow a lot of algae, it didn't work out. Okay, it is what it is. I got the plants, but the plants are doing great. The pygmy water lilies, they're doing great. The sand here and everything is doing great. I just did a water change for the fish, which I do once a week. I may stir up the sand a little bit, with my hand, or I use a credit card. Sometimes I'll do, and I'll just stir it up just a little bit like this, because goldfish will, when they eat, they'll be moving the sand, and so you may have these may be low spots, so I'll move it back. Anyhow, the trapdoor snails, here's one, and here's one over here. They did the job they were supposed to do. I got 10 of them, and the mystery snails have been doing great. So the tank, I have to admit, just is zero problems. But what's this video really going to be about? I just watched a video, brand new video out, by BRStv, Saltwater. I don't know if any of you have ever watched BRStv, Saltwater, but it's YouTube. I'll leave a link below. They just put this video out. It's top 10 ways to solve dirty saltwater aquarium sand. Now, is it a coincidence, or are they kind of copying? A few videos ago, I talked to a curator at the Florida Aquarium, Chris, and he was stirring up the sand. And he explained that they have to do this 4 times a week because the animals that normally would keep the sand open aren't there, and they have to get some. So they have to stir the sand up. And as I've been advocating that this aquarium is sand. Okay, this is play sand. The sand that, from what I understood, a lot of people prefer the black sand that I had in the 20-gallon, or they prefer the white sand that is more for your pressurized filters. The white sand is. And people stay away from the play sand, but the play sand comes in 50 or 60 pound bags. I mixed it with a little bit of the gravel I had from the 20-gallon. I have a whole thing of how I set this up. You'll see green here, but the green here is because of the light coming in. This is a lanai, but if you look at the sides, they're really not like the green that you see here. The thing about it is, besides the tank being extreme low maintenance, and I'm not doing anything to it, plants are growing like a banshee. Getting back to the BRS video that just came out, they talk about, now listen to this, sand. They talk about even 1 inch deep sand. Now, if you watch my last video, I talked about these air bubbles still being trapped in the sand because fluids aren't moving. And if you're watching my video, you'll know that I talk about fluids need to move in and out of here. They don't need to move fast. That is what we used to think back in the 60s, late 60s and 70s and 80s. We thought fluids needed to move fast, just like sewage treatment facilities. But we know now that fluids need to move. They need to move, but they don't need to move fast. They need to move slowly. They need to move precisely, and they need to grow specialized bacteria. And we know this because the nitrogen cycle can be completed through bacteria, which means your phosphates, your nitrates, and things like this can be used up by bacteria. And that's what we're looking for. But somewhere, which I get a lot of comments, especially from the old-time Aquarius, somewhere it went wrong. And they even had agreed, they noticed the same thing, where people are grabbing their sand. A lot of people are using sand, and basically I found out it's because it's cheap, and they're showing this on video and throwing it at the bottom of the aquarium. But with this new video that just came out, BRS, they're talking about you have to get the sand to move. Isn't that what I've been talking about on my thing? You have to get oxygen in the sand. They show pictures of the sand with algae all over the top of the sand. They said this is what happens if you do not keep oxygen in that substrate. You will grow algae. Remember, I explained to you what happens. Though other people do not recognize what I say and they say I'm full of it, no. What happens is you build up a sand bed, you create ammonia. Ammonia is a food source for all plants. Plants will take ammonia over nitrogen any day of the week. Everybody knows this. The Florida Aquarium, Chris even admitted it. He says, yeah, we know that. It creates ammonia. This ammonia becomes a food source. It migrates out, and there's where your food is lying, and therefore your algae is going to take over. So this new video that's out explains to you about the animals that have to get into the substrate and keep moving it and getting oxygen in there. This is exactly what everybody has agreed upon. Now, in the freshwater aquarium hobby, we really don't have a lot of animals that dig into our substrate. We do have Malaysian Librarian snails, and they will dig into your substrate. How deep they dig is another matter, but they will go into the substrate, and then at night they all come out of the substrate and clean up your tank, and then they bury themselves back into the substrate. But if you don't have a chance to get Malaysian Librarian snails, what can you use in a freshwater aquarium? Well, a lot of people, even with 1 inch of sand, remember that's only about that big. That's not very much sand. I showed you in my 20 gallon. It's not very much substrate. And as people are getting with thicker substrates, 3 to 4 inch substrates, which is advocated on some other videos or how they're showing people, you are going to create ammonia. It becomes a food source for your plants, your higher order plants, and your algae. And as you can see over here, remember I had the beard algae, it's gone. It's 100% gone. No chemicals, no nothing. This has not gotten any chemicals except for the bacteria I put in from the very start. You know, the bacteria culture that I got, which I explained in my video if you want to watch it. So now we have the Florida Aquarium. We now have BRS. And watch the video, because what is applying to the saltwater hobby also applies to the freshwater hobby. It's no different. The bacteria is different in salt and freshwater, but it does the exact same thing. Okay, there's nothing different that you could say doesn't apply to a freshwater aquarium that doesn't apply to a saltwater aquarium, especially when you start doing something like this. A lot of people will advocate plants. The trouble is, you take a tank like this, well, the only plant that has a root system really is the lilies or this plant. Well, that's it. Not everybody's going to have a ton of plants. And if you've been watching my videos, you will see people who have been making their aquariums. They may have a few plants, but not 70% of their aquarium bottom covered with evasive root plants, because plants are unreliable as far as that goes. I have a little crip here that grew on itself, and I have the wisteria that has a root system, plus the 2 lilies. But that's it. 70% of this tank is not with plants. Yet the fish are doing great. It's because, as I've explained to you before, you have to keep fluids moving through the substrate. You have to. And back in the 70s and 80s, it was believed that you had to move fluids very quickly, but that never was until the plenum started coming out and people start using the plenum. But still, people weren't satisfied with the plenum until I started researching and said, what if we just took a plenum and displaced the water that is in the bottom slowly, like they used to do back in like the 50s and early 60s. They used to have undergravel filters with only 3/8 lift tubes, very short 6-inch lift tubes. That's it. 1 lift tube. And they didn't have these problems. And so I thought, I'm going to research this. I want to find out what changed. And what changed is we were moving fluids too fast because we weren't creating the anoxic conditions we wanted to create with moving fluids slowly and letting the nitrogen cycle complete itself. So I thought it was interesting, and I think you'll find it interesting. Even if you're not in saltwater, you should watch it. And you'll see everything they're talking about, except for some of the stuff they're going to talk about pertains to saltwater only. But the first segment is about animal life, keeping it. And the second segment of the 10 things you're going to tell you, number 2, is actually stirring the sand up physically. Now, the question comes up, if saltwater hobbies have to do this, why is the freshwater hobbies exempt from the laws of physics? Why is it that the freshwater hobbyist doesn't have to stir their sand up, but the saltwater hobbyist has to? You see, this isn't making sense. And now more and more people are starting to come out with what I'm talking about to you, that yes, fluids have to move through the substrate. So the Wallstat method and stuff like that, they won't work correctly unless you have a lot of plants trying to move the fluids through, and you don't know how much ammonia is being created at the very bottom of the aquarium. When fluids stop moving or move so slowly that all the oxygen has been depleted. And we understand that when fluids don't move and the oxygen becomes depleted, we have a reduction, ORP. Okay, and when you have a reduction, you go into negative numbers on a reduction ORP, because you cannot have a high ORP with no oxygen. You will go into negative numbers. You can't have negative numbers as long as you have oxygen. If oxygen is present, you have oxidizers. Okay? Once you go without oxygen, you don't have oxidizers anymore. You go into the other way of your ORP. Saltwater people understand this. The video I'm going to do when I explain everything with Dr. Passavoy, he talks about redox and ORP. Of course, he's a doctor. He knows all about it. He's had to deal with this. And I'll get that in another video. But I wanted to do this video because after I watched that, I thought, this has to get out. We really need to get this out to people, because the people that are failing at aquarium hobby like this, which they shouldn't be, and they're getting bad advice, we need to change that around. Because here I showed you the professionals, which is at your top aquariums. They know it. Here, a new YouTube came out by BRS. They know it. Why is it freshwater people don't know it? But they have a redox of 500 and you're not using ozone, or you're not using an algae scrubber, or you're not using a protein skimmer, and you have a redox of 500? No wonder his discus and all of his fish are doing great, because he has so many oxidizers in there. Anything that comes in there, any pollution that comes in that tank, boom, gets oxidized. So that's what we want in our aquariums. So until next time, I want to thank you for watching. And I want to also thank all those people who have subscribed to my channel, all these brand new people. I mean, it's great that what can I say, my viewers who are actually subscribing every day has been great. For me, anywhere between 10 to 20 viewers a day, that's pretty good for my channel, because I'm kind of like a niche channel. You know, I'm not the kind of guy who's going to tear down my tanks and show you how to redecorate it and then redecorate and constantly redecorate my aquariums. I don't do that. I basically let them do what they do, and I want to have some nice fish, and I don't want to be a slave to my aquarium. You know, that's another thing. I don't want to be a slave to my aquarium, and especially like when I used to work, you know, go to work every day. Yeah, nobody wants to be a slave to their aquarium. They want everything to go well with their aquarium. So until next time, I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for you new subscribers who subscribe to my channel. I'm really quite surprised how many have been subscribing to the channel. I want to thank all of you. I want to also wish all of you, in case I don't make another video, since New Year's is coming up, I hope you have a prosperous and happy New Year's. I really do. Because if you're happy, I'm happy. And if you're happy, you're probably going to make more than one fish tank. And if you think about it, some people have made mention that they don't want this to get out because it would hurt business. I'm seeing the opposite. I'm seeing people do this, and then they want to make another tank, and then they want to make another tank. So really, manufacturers aren't losing money. They're gaining money because people now have to buy new tanks, new stands. You get what I'm saying? They're still going to sell products for the aquariums. You know, light, stand, tank. They're still going to sell everything. So it's not going to hinder the hobby in the least bit, I don't feel, that if people just change their way of thinking. But that's why I wanted to show you this aquarium. 15 hours of light a day, and there is no algae on anything. Even the plants, they're not full of algae. They're red at the tips, meaning they're growing. And I'm telling you, this is the third time I have cleaned the plants out of here. I mean, I could have a gallon container just full of the Harnworth and have to toss it in the trash can. It's growing that fast without CO2 or anything. So until next time, thank you very much for watching.